Behind the Frenzy, sponsored by the My Auto Group.
Welcome into the Behind the Frenzy podcast. I'm your host, Dean Holzwarth, alongside Andy McDonald again, and we are here for season 2 of talking about high school football in the West Michigan area.
They brought us back. Can you believe it?
They brought us back. Yes, we did not get pink slipped. So we're super excited to be in this new studio. Our producer, Phil Panarski, over there. So we're super excited, like I said, to bring you guys high school football at its best. And Andy, what are you looking forward to this season?
I mean, just getting back out there on the sidelines. I mean, I think it's year 7 or 8 for me. So I think the thing I look forward to the most, like every year, is just seeing the student bodies and how they come out to support at first. It's always really cool to see it on a Friday night. You know, it's just a different feeling, especially this time of year. We're already getting that cool weather right now too, so it's a lot different than most years. I mean, usually you're still starting the first 2-3 weeks at least in like the 80s when the game starts. So yeah, it's definitely a different feel already. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing some of the teams get out there. I think we got some great football in the area this year. A lot of teams coming back that want to find their way back to Ford Field. So yeah, I think it'll be another good year. Yeah,
that's the goal. This is my 10th season now here working for Football Frenzy and Jack Doles and everybody. And a funny quick story here before we start of how I met Andy. I was out covering a game. Jack Doles sent me out to Hudsonville for Hudsonville Rockford game, and all of a sudden, they talk about this new guy named Andy McDonald, and I was like, all right, whatever. Didn't even know what he looked like really, and so. We go to interview the coaches afterwards, and I see this guy coming up with like a Wood TV jacket on. I'm like, "Are you from Wood TV?" And he's like, "Yeah, are you?" And so Jack sent us to the same game, and so to write a story. And so I was like, "Well, who's gonna do the story?" Jack's like, "I want you to do the story." I'm like, "All right, well, why is Andy here then?" So that was kind of how we kind of got first introduced to ourselves in that kind of weird way.
Sure was.
But yeah, like I said, love doing high school football in the fall, and I do see some 70s and 80s coming up. So I don't think we're gonna have to wear pants.
Yeah, keep the shorts tradition going as long as we can.
Yeah.
I think it could be 40 degrees in the first weekend. I'd have to wear shorts just to keep it going after last year. So,
all right. Well, first week we have most of the games are going to be on Thursday this week. We'll talk about our 3 spotlight games for Thursday, and then we'll talk about 3 games that we're going to spotlight on Friday. So first of all, we got to get into probably the biggest game of the week is going to be Byron Center at Hudsonville. Both teams went to Ford Field last year. Andy and I checked them out. Unfortunately, both teams lost in their respective championship games last year, and each lost a lot of senior talent.
Yeah, for sure. It's not going to be an easy road back for either one of them. I think it was kind of one of those seasons where I felt like it was like, get there and give it your all. It did a lot for their programs, though. I think both, like Hudsonville and Byron Center, were not names that we were talking about getting to Ford Field, very often in the past. So it was cool to see them make the runs that they did. And they did it in dominant fashion getting to that game. Obviously, they ran into a couple of buzzsaws in the teams that they played when they got there. But yeah, it was a very impressive season. But that sets a good standard for your program. I think that maybe we can see more even out of some of the younger talent they have. When you have that much success at the high school level and you're able to make it that far. It definitely brings more momentum going to you in the future, and it kind of like sets it up for your freshman and JV teams, those kids to want to get that much better and work that much harder in the off season. And I think that is a good standard. What a better way to start it than the 2 teams playing each other that both found a way to make it there last year. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the results of that one are, because it's going to be a pretty good game, I think, either way.
Yeah, I think a big. Obviously, a big shoes to fill for both quarterbacks. Landon Tungate, was a 4-year guy at Byron Center, and now he's being replaced. Ethan Weicher is going to be the new quarterback at Byron. And we'll see how he can fill those shoes.
It's going to be tough. He can do it all.
Tungate did everything, for Byron Center last year, and obviously helped lead them to the success and that program, to kind of new heights last year. Hudsonville side, Griff Baker was a quarterback last year. Brady Van Lake now will step in. Brady Van Lake was a talented wide receiver last year. Now he moves to quarterback, and Van Lake's good. He's a talented kid. He's just a good athlete. So I think he's going to do a good job running this Eagles offense.
Yeah, I mean, if you can step out from being a receiver and into being a quarterback, that says a lot. And I guess the one thing is he already knows the grass of the offense over there. Yeah. So that'll definitely help him going into the season and playing it out. But yeah, anytime you're able to be a receiver and step into the quarterback shoes, which is most important position on the field, maybe in sports, says a lot about the athlete he is. So.
Yep. All right, next spotlight game, Granville, Muskegon. Granville's hosting this game. Super interesting matchup. And let's talk about Muskegon first.
Yeah.
3-5 last year. Losing record for the first time since 1999. Missed the playoffs for the first time since 1999. Do you think Shane Fairfield has any?
I think
motivation
he
for this
was
year?
definitely thinking about it a little bit. It was kind of funny because I actually went and talked to him a few weeks ago, and I asked him about like the scheduling and stuff, just because it was kind of tough for them a year ago, and how they were able to get some games this year. And he was like, "I'm surprised anybody was knocking on our door after going 3-5. Like, come on, you're still Muskegon. It doesn't matter if you went 3-5 or not." But yeah, it's definitely motivation for them. Ricardo Kitchen is obviously the name that a lot of people are watching out there on the defensive end. We'll have a story coming out on him here in a couple of days. He looks like the Division I athlete that everybody is thinking he's going to be in the future, and he's going to raise. I got to watch him in a scrimmage out there against a few other teams that are pretty good from around the area, and he was just, I mean, every play that he got the chance to be in there, he was raising havoc in the backfield. So, yeah, it'll definitely be. I think the defense will be much improved from a year ago, and I think you can expect their offense to be a little bit better too. They have a couple options at quarterback that look pretty good right now, so I expect them to bounce back. I mean, it just wouldn't matter who was on this team when you got Shane as your coach. I think that they're going to be motivated to get back and be better.
Yeah, 100% agree. They definitely, have that motivation to go back and, kind of continue the success that they've had all those years.
Yeah, right.
On the flip side, let's go to Granville. Eric Stiegel has been a great job with that program. They've made the playoffs every single time, every single year under him. Last year, we talked about Granville a lot in our podcast because they started out losing some close games, and their defense wasn't very good, giving up a lot of points. But the one guy they got back is Tank Terry. Over 5,000 yards now for his career in the first 3 years. He's always the all-time leading rusher in the OK Red. Just explosive guy, hard to bring down. What are you expecting from Granville this year?
I talked to both Jaden and Eric when I was out there, and they both seem pretty confident in this team to be just as good. I think what Jaden made a pretty good point. They had a new defensive coordinator last year to start the year before those first few games, and you mentioned how the defense gave a lot of points. He believed that was the reason that they kind of struggled to start the year. Obviously, they were able to go on and get the wins that they did in the playoffs later in the season, and they allowed a lot less points. So the math kind of backs that up when you just look at it from a number standpoint. But Eric said, it's like obviously Muskegon's this team that everybody knows about. It doesn't matter what their record was a year ago. He had a lot of respect for what their program has done over there. But like he said in his words, they got to play the Granville Bulldogs too. He thinks after last year, even with some of those close losses and some of the big wins they were able to finish with, they kind of prove that they're not just some team that's going to get pushed over or beat anymore. So I think it's a really good setup for a game. It's one of those ones on paper when you kind of look at it, you think it's hard to get the old thoughts out of your head that Muskegon will probably roll in this game. But I don't think it's going to be like that anymore. I think that Granville truly is a team that can compete this year and play with Muskegon.
Yeah, I definitely think Granville kind of built some momentum at the end of the year. Like you said, they got to a slow start, and then they upset Rockford in the first round of the playoffs.
I mean, think about that. Granville beating Rockford,
Right.
That's not in the past. No way.
That hasn't happened in a while. And then, they have a really close game against Hudsonville, have a chance to win that game on the last drive. Unfortunately, through an interception, end up losing, and obviously look what Hudsonville did. So, Granville wasn't too far away there at the end of the season. So, looking forward to that matchup as well.
No doubt.
All right, the third one, let's stay with Rockford. Celine is coming to Rockford to play the Rams. Weird season last year for Rockford. They had 3 losses. They had that stretch where they lost back-to-back games against Hudsonville and Jenison. Then they lost to Granville. It was their most losses since 2018. This is just a team that we've always kind of known as like going, undefeated regular season, win a couple games in the postseason, maybe lose in the regionals or semis, whatever the case may be. But that wasn't the way it was last year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think coming into the season they were even ranked number 1 in some matchups.
Yeah.
People really thought they were going to be that good, and they got upset a few times. But Brent Cummings has done a great job with that program, since it's gotten turned over to him, and I think he'll get things going in the right direction again. Rockford's just one of those schools that they put a lot of pride and effort into what they do on the football field, and you see it. But you go to their sideline on Friday night, it's definitely got a lot of kids that go out for
over
it.
100 guys.
It's insane.
It's really ridiculous.
The program that they run, you just got to have confidence in that they'll be able to get back and be good. But I mean, sailing's a good test. Anytime you play a team from over there, it's always a good test to start the year. So we'll see if they're able to get the job done. It should be an interesting one in week 1.
Yeah, just a little kind of side note on Celine. So they were 7-4 last year, and it was their most losses since 2011. It's always been a pretty consistently a winning program throughout the years. Obviously, they did win last year, but just wasn't to the magnitude as it had been in previous years. And who was their last loss to in the district final? Bryce Underwood in Belleville.
That's crazy.
That ended their season.
I mean, that doesn't really surprise me that he's the one that did it, but that's crazy that that's the matchup.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that game. So Thursday has, like we talked about, most of the games are going to be on Thursday, but there'll be a few games on Friday. So we're going to talk now about the Friday games that we have coming up. So the first one is defending champs, Zeeland West.
Oh yeah.
New coach, Jeff Bullhouse, replaced legend John Shillito. Interesting thing about this one. John Bullhouse was the JV coach for 20 years at Zeeland West.
Wow.
So he knows the system.
Okay.
He obviously,
So there's gonna be no changes there. We're still gonna be seeing the wing tee. They're still gonna stick to the
your
same.
thoughts about Zeeland West?
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing for me. And like, you can't really, you can't go against the grain, it feels, against them. That's kind of how they've gotten the job done. They've always been this team that quietly makes it to Ford Field sometimes. Like, you don't really expect it, and then all of a sudden they're there. And I think last year's effort was really impressive because coming into that game, I think both of us might have predicted them to lose, and I don't think that a
we
lot.
were wrong.
We were very wrong.
very wrong.
They were all over in that game, but that's what that system can do to teams. It doesn't matter like how much talent you have when you run the wing tee and you can't see where the ball is going to go sometimes. And that school preaches it. They run that offense. They've done it for so many years. So I think John would only hand it over to somebody that he knows is going to be able to take the wings and run it the right way. And I think that I have the confidence they're going to be able to do that again. Will they be able to do it to a state championship level again? I think that's to be seen. But obviously, I think the team they played against last year, a lot of people would say had more talent on their roster. It didn't matter because they had no clue where the ball was going the whole time. So if they're able to execute the same way and have some athletes in their team again, I think they could have a chance to be back there towards the end of the year.
Yeah, they definitely lost a lot of good senior talent. Obviously, when you have that system, you can kind of plug in anybody into that role, and they're going to do what they did last year, which they absolutely put on a clinic.
It's really just protecting the ball. I feel like in that system, like if you don't fumble, then you're probably going to move the ball a lot. Because how do you stop somebody from going 3 to 4 yards?
Yeah.
It's so hard. You have to have such a dominant front four. So
Yep, it's crazy. All right, so the biggest surprise team last year that you and I talked about almost every week after week 4 or 5 was Northview.
yeah,
9-0 historic season, hasn't undefeated regular season, and then unfortunately they drew Byron Center in the first round.
Disappointment there.
And got knocked out. But I think that was their best season since like 1950.
Yeah.
50 some years.
No,
Right?
Byron Center obviously went on to make it to the state championship game, but making the playoffs, I still thought Northview was going to maybe be able to get the win just because of the fact that they went 9-0. I mean, maybe their schedule wasn't as strong, but still.
Yeah, so they opened the season at West Catholic, so they've kind of beefed up their schedule a little bit, and taking on a good power right there.
And West Catholic doesn't forgot what happened to them last year in the playoffs either. That's for sure. They get the game against Catholic Central. Obviously, they lost in the block punt, and then Jameson Williams makes the catch in the back of the end zone. Not the Lions, Jameson Williams, but the other one.
Right.
So it was a pretty crazy finish there. I think that they remember that, and that's sticking with them. And it's been extra motivation over there for them going into this season because they felt like they could have gotten back to that state championship game for the first time since 2022, and they expect to do that every year. So you got a team who kind of put themselves on the map in Northview in this past year that went 9-0 and kind of put their name out there, but had a disappointing end of the season. West Catholic had a disappointing end of the season, but they expect to go further every year. So it's like one of those blue bloods against a team that maybe is trying to keep themselves on the map and be that way. So I think it's a really exciting matchup in week 1 to see what happens out there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Catholic Central has knocked West Catholic out of the end of their season the last 2 years.
It's crazy. It's that's things for them because over there that's still a big deal. Obviously, there was that whole drama where the rivalry was stopped for a little bit.
Yep.
But now it's back on. Every time they play the game, it's just as good.
Yep. And then the third and final game on Friday that we're going to be spotlighting is a team that lost somebody who we talked about nearly every single week, and that his name is Carson Viss.
How couldn't you, though? Honestly,
it was the Carson Viss show for a few weeks in a row because the guy was just so talented. And now he's at Western Michigan.
And then the playoffs out of nowhere, they get that win. When we kind of expected them maybe to be done, it was crazy.
Yes, and they ended up losing in the semis, so they fell 1 game short of going back to Ford Field. They ended up losing to Niles in the Division 4 semis. So they are opening the season Friday at Grand Rapids Christian.
Yep.
Grand Rapids Christians had a few down years. Last time they had a winning they've had 3 losing seasons in a row, which is a little bit rare for Grand Rapids Christian. But
it is.
Do you think Grand Rapids Christian is going to turn this around, and what do you think? Is South Christian going to have a little bit of a letdown after losing Carson Viss?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting matchup with a couple of programs that are really trying to figure it out again, obviously for different reasons. Like you said, South Christian has kind of been a good team the past years, but they've had Carson Viss to lean on. They've had a lot of talent there to lean on. Now maybe they got to figure it out a little bit from more of the bottom up or have some of these younger guys be better for this team. When you look at Grand Rapids Christian, they were dominant. I mean, in the past, like when you had guys like Drake Harris coming through there and all those years where they were just consistently good every single year, it felt like you could count on them being good. They've really really taken a major drop off. And I think that I got the chance to watch them in the scrimmage. They look like they got some talent in that team, and I think that they have a chance to maybe get out of it. But I think this is a big first step for both these teams. I think one team can prove that maybe they're going to go one direction this year, and the other team can. I think this is one of those ones where you can maybe tell a lot from even the first game of the season. So we'll see where they're both at going into week 1.
Yeah, I definitely agree. South Christian's had Grandpa's Christian's number. The Eagles have not beaten South Christian since 2019.
Yeah.
So it's been a long winning streak here for South Christian. But yeah, you're right. You're right. I can't wait to see kind of what comes from that game as we look forward to the rest of the season. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for joining us again. We're looking forward to another great season here. We'll be with you every week, talking about the spotlight games, kind of wrapping up what happened the week before. Any questions, comments, please let us know. You can find us at woodtv.com and also on the YouTube. So, all right, see you next week.